Welcome to Los Angeles, a city known for its stars. And on the ultimate field, the hometown Aviators have more than a few breakout talents ready to showcase their abilities under the lights on the big stage. Of course, the Dallas Roughnecks have always been a team built around superstars, and this season is no different, with the Roughnecks looking to rediscover their top form and get back to another Final Four. The Aviators and the Roughnecks ready to see whose stars will shine brightest tonight. LA and Dallas coming up next. It's another edition of Free Friday Frisbee coming at you from the left coast. We are in Los Angeles, California for our DraftKings Game of the Week. The Dallas Roughnecks at 1-1 and the Los Angeles Aviators 1-3, looking to get back on track tonight. Hey everybody, Evan Lepler with Megan Tormey. It's great to have you with us. This is week 4 of the AUDL season. The first 3 weeks have featured more than their fair share of chaos. And these are two teams I think both think they can take a step forward heading into the month of July.
Yeah, they've had a lot of pieces they're looking to work better with. And so I think both teams think, okay, now we finally had a chance. We have some games under our belt. We have a little bit of practice. We're ready to put forth a more polished product.
Megan, ever since the Dallas Roughnecks came into this league, they have presented themselves as a marquee franchise. They went undefeated in their first year back in 2016, and they've been to the Final Four every season since. It does feel like a little bit of a different team, though, this year. Young talent, out-of-town talent, and they haven't clicked on all cylinders yet. What do you make of the 21 Roughnecks?
Well, I think that they're a team that always likes to give each player an opportunity to get on the field and showcase what he does best. And I think this year, especially having taken a year off because of the pandemic, they're taking a little bit longer to let all the players find their roles, but they seem completely unfazed of how they've done so far. Like I said, they feel pretty confident that they're going to be able to put it together in time, and this is definitely the time when they need to do it.
Dallas's only win so far this year, of course, was last weekend against these Aviators, who are without 2 of their top young players. Both Calvin Brown and Danny Landisman are expected to play tonight, and that's good news for this Aviators team that has a new coach. Danny Landisman's dad, Jeff, a legend in LA Ultimate, is now the leader. And there's a lot of tantalizing young talent that I'm really excited to see at home against a marquee opponent.
Yeah, Jeff Landisman, also someone that we should talk about. This is his first year coaching in the AUDL, although he jokes he's been coaching from the stands for years. And so he's also been taking time to kind of get to know his players and see what kind of systems he can put together with the talent that he has. We've seen a lot from Brown and Landisman to give us hope that they can figure out the key pieces that they need to be a firing squad.
LA's one win against the San Diego team in San Diego. The Growlers are 3-1. That's their only loss. We'll see San Diego against Dallas tomorrow. One of the fascinating storylines tonight is the return of Chris Mazer, who has played for both of these franchises, also played on the East Coast for New York and way back in 2012 for the Connecticut Constitution. Look them up if you've never heard of them before. But now Mazer is a member of the Dallas Roughnecks, a team that he won a title with in 16, a team that he helped lead to the Final Four in 17, but he led the Aviators to the Final Four in 18. He's wearing a Dallas jersey tonight, and this is his 21 debut.
You know, the interesting thing is that the Aviators know all too well what he can do, and that's not going to be enough to stop him. He can put a dime anywhere on the field. So it's really going to challenge LA's opportunities defensively to stop the receivers downfield. There's only so much you can do to mitigate Mazer's throwing power. So it's really going to challenge the defense to try and limit the number of shots that he has to take, because if he sees an open space, he will take it, and they know that.
Chris Mazer also really wanted me to give a shout out to his mom, Donna. So, hey, Mom. Chris, excited that you're watching him tonight. On the other side, one of Chris Mazer's former teammates, Sean McDougal, was kind of on the fence about whether he was going to return for the 2021 season after the long layoff. But not only is he back, he's putting up numbers that are off the charts.
No kidding, Evan. What do you want done? He's the man to do it. He's got 3 blocks this season. He's known for huge receiving capabilities, but if opposing teams try and push him up the field, don't you worry. He can also throw some dimes himself. He is a threat whenever, wherever he is on the field.
Nearly 1,200 receiving yards through 4 games for McDougal, who's really a self-made player, voted captain of this team, excited to be back. And this is the type of game you come back for, to face the Dallas Roughnecks at home. They're going to have a nice crowd. It's a picture-perfect night for Ultimate. The only question is, Megan, will the opponent be at full strength? And that's what we're nervous about. The Dallas Roughnecks are undermanned right now. They may have some players arriving midway through the start of the game. We're set for a 6:15 local time start, 9:15 Eastern time for the opening pull, as the Roughnecks, undermanned but incredibly talented, take on the hometown Aviators, looking to spring the upset. We're excited. Hope you are too. LA and Dallas, Free Friday Frisbee coming at you.
The playoffs make every day feel like a win, but with DraftKings, every day is a win. Courtesy of DraftKings Free-to-Play Pools Playoff Edition. Simply make your picks on the featured game of the day.
Answer questions like who will cover the spread, which team will score first, and which players will have the most points. If you get enough right, take home your share of $250,000. So download the DraftKings app now. Use the promo code to play free for a share of $250,000 in prizes.
And make it rain.
Beautiful night for Ultimate here in Los Angeles, California. And Ultimate fans, we encourage you to play in the free AUDL pool on DraftKings for your shot at $1,000 in prizes. Just answer a series of questions on the results of the second half, get enough correct, and take home your share of $1,000. Download the DraftKings app and sign up with the promo code AUDL. We are about 9 minutes away from opening pull here in LA. Evan Lepler back with Megan Tormey. And Megan, I got to say, I'm a little nervous about one of Lepler's locks for this week. I boldly proclaimed that Dallas was going to score 20 or more goals. They are shorthanded, and that is an understatement. There's a plane of Roughnecks on the way that was severely delayed. So they're ready to start this game with 10. AUDL rules basically dictate if you have 10 and you have guys on the way, you can go. They'll get here as soon as possible, but this is going to be an interesting and kind of unprecedented night with the Roughnecks and all their talent going against a deeper LA team.
Well, first, let me say no one will fault you for getting this one wrong, because this one's a pretty difficult one to predict. But this does give LA an absolutely incredible opportunity to come out firing fast. They have the opportunity to wear out half of the Roughnecks at the beginning of this game, giving themselves a better opportunity, a little more cushion in the second half, which frankly they could have used in their last matchup. They were neck and neck in the first quarter, and then towards the end of the second quarter, Dallas really started to pull away, and it was lights out for LA for pretty much the entire second half of the game.
Obviously, it's huge for the Aviators to try and get off to a great start tonight, something that they did not do last week in Dallas. They lost to the Roughnecks by 8, then fell in overtime one night later to the Soul. Another game that they really feel like they should have won. Jeff Landesman feels they could easily be 2-2 or 3-1. Here's what's coming up tomorrow and Sunday in the Week 4 schedule for the American Ultimate Disc League. Doubleheader weekend for the Detroit Mechanics as they try to snap their ridiculous 42-game losing streak that dates back to April of 2017. Tampa Bay also has a tough doubleheader. They're in Boston tonight. Glory was up 4 or 5 last I checked. They got the New York Empire, the defending champs, tomorrow. It's also been a tough Friday night, Megan, for the Philadelphia Phoenix. They're in Raleigh, and it was kind of a rainy night. The first point of that game took about 7 minutes. It ended with the Flyers punching it in for a break, and Philadelphia is getting rocked tonight. So they were undefeated. Now they get to go against another undefeated team in Atlanta tomorrow.
That makes for a brutal back-to-back game, especially when the first one's tough. The weather conditions aren't right. You then have to go on the road and try and play again the next night. Of course, we knew that the schedule was set so that they were going to face some challenges, so their perfect record was more than likely going to be challenged earlier rather than later. But this is always the more important thing when you are trying to figure out how to have a winning season. You really have to be focused on letting whatever happens on the first night of your back-to-back kind of wash away. You have to work on recovery, get a lot of sleep as much as you can as travel allows, so that you are as fresh as possible and face the challenge the next day with as intense of a squad as you can.
2 other undefeated teams hitting the road this weekend. Chicago is at Indy tomorrow, and the Union won't have as strong of a roster on the road as they will at home. Playing indoors at Indy can be a little jarring for some opponents, even though you think that there are no conditions for everybody. Also, the Austin Soul, they got a road doubleheader. They're at Seattle tonight. They're at San Jose tomorrow. And as we look at the central standings, you see the Union an unbeaten 3-0. The Wind Chill are 2-0 against the Radicals, getting a big win last week in St. Paul.
You know, looking at the Wind Chill, I have to say they're one of the more polished teams in the AUDL right now. They have really maximized the practice time that they had leading into this season. They are working well together. Their offense looks like it's firing on all cylinders. And then I can't say enough about Dylan DeClerc's defensive performance. He is doing an outstanding job keeping the defense fired up, engaged. It really has made a huge difference in Minnesota's ability to close out tough games.
Entering week 4 in the Atlantic Division, there were 3 undefeated teams. Of course, the Philadelphia Phoenix will fall from those ranks this evening and potentially pick up a second loss tomorrow. Atlanta is at 3-0. New York has Tampa Bay tomorrow. Raleigh Flyers, after an 0-2 start, playing great tonight, and they've got a favorable schedule. Their next 4 games after tonight are against 2 of the bottom 3, Tampa Bay and Pittsburgh. So, I mean, I ask you, do you think the Flyers are about to get rolling?
I do. I really think that this has been just such a strange preseason, and so teams that have a lot of different stars who can do really dynamic things just need a little extra time to put those pieces into play appropriately. You know, watching Henry Fisher and Anders Youngst, I'm really excited about what this squad can do. They just need a little more time to kind of figure out how to move as a team, as a unit.
And it's interesting, DC listed 4th on this list, but their performance last Friday night against Boston was as dominant of an offensive performance as I think we've ever seen in our years covering the league. Hey, there's Zach Theodore sitting in the stands. He's always got one of the best mustaches in the league, enjoying a meal, one of the great Aviators, all-time leader in blocks in franchise history. Not for a knee injury, probably would be out there playing. Let's take a look at the West standings coming into tonight. And the biggest surprise is the team that's atop, the Austin Soul. You know, there were some prognosticators out there that picked them to go 1-11. We're not going to mention any names or anything like that. But they're 2-0. Are you a believer?
I am a believer, and here you see on the screen Chase Cunningham, who used to play on the Austin Soul, as well as Kyle Henke, who also used to play on the Austin Soul. When those 2 players went over to Dallas, a lot of people thought there was nothing left in the tank for Austin. They couldn't do it, but they have some great new superstars, Evan Switek, Jake Sames, Joey Wiley, just to name a few players who can really put up big numbers and make fantastic plays when their team needs it. Their energy is young and just seems so determined.
We got the Roughnecks and the Aviators. Also got Dallas at San Diego tomorrow. The first ever weekend for the Dallas Roughnecks in the state of California, not including the last championship weekend when they played up in the Bay Area, falling to New York in the finals. All right, just a couple minutes away, opening pull. Aviators, Roughnecks here from L.A. We'll take a short break and be right back with you in just a moment.
every day feel like a win. But with DraftKings, every day is a win. Courtesy of DraftKings free-to-play pools playoff edition. Simply make your picks on the featured game of the day.
Answer questions like who will cover the spread, which team will score first, and which players will have the most points. If you get enough right, take home your share of $250,000. So download the DraftKings app now. Use the promo code to play free for a share of $250,000 in prizes.
And make it rain.
Those are the Dallas Roughnecks, and those are all of them at the moment. Gabe Hernandez, Kaplan Maurer, Ben Lewis, Matt Jackson, Chase Cunningham, Kyle Henke, Jake Reinhardt, Kai Marshall, Hunter Taylor, and Chris Mazer. And that's a pretty good group of 10 players.
I was just going to say, if you're stuck with 10 players, this isn't too shabby of a pick.
But they are certainly outmatched in the depth department with what the Aviators have. There are more Roughneck reinforcements on the way, but this game is going to start in just a couple of minutes, and the Roughnecks are going to have to figure something out with the 10 players that they have. Now, we were chatting with Kaplan Maurer and Kai Marshall about this about an hour ago, and they're both like, look, we played at small college programs. We were used to going to tournaments with 10, 11 guys and having the 4 or 5 guys that you trust would play every point. Now we have 10 really good guys, so we're in better shape than we were in those college days. What do you think?
Well, honestly, if there's a team in the league who will fare well with half of their squad gone, it's the Dallas Roughnecks. There is something about this franchise that, like I said earlier, really encourages players to take it upon their own shoulders to do whatever they can to really elevate the team. And I think it shows in really fascinating and dynamic ways. I was talking with Coach Jim Davis about this, and he gave credit to Dalton Smith for the creation of their offensive system, saying, look, Dalton looks at the talent that they have, the things people want to do, can do, and then builds a system around it. And that's got to give players a lot of confidence when they know you are allowed to go on the field and do what you think you do best and go big.
That was a great shot we just had with the airplane in the distance. I don't think that was the Roughnecks plane, but I can't say for sure. We're not that far from LAX, and all afternoon and all day long their plane's coming over kind of that left side horizon from where we are. So you see the officiating crew, the head ref, veteran official Brian Bradburn, with Vincent Chang, Efron Nazar, and Austin Holland. And, I mean, Jeff Landesman, the new coach of the Aviators, who you mentioned, I think is a little more nervous with the fact that the Roughnecks are shorthanded, because now there's more pressure on LA to jump on them quick and to capitalize on things here. Sean McDougal's just having a ball down there in the captain's meeting.
Have you ever seen Sean McDougal not smiling?
No, that's one of the things that makes him such a fan favorite. He plays with such an exuberant joy, and I was thrilled that he returned to the league. And I mean, look, he's had a remarkable career, closing in on 200 career goals, over 100 assists, and I mean, he might have 100 Ds by the time it's all said and done. McDougal, the 31-year-old now, and look, there are several of his longtime teammates on this Aviators team that did decide to retire. Thinking about a guy like Tyler Bacon, who was the player coach a couple years ago, Aaron Weaver, who may be the only player who would smile more than Sean McDougal when he was out on the field. But McDougal wanted to give this another chance. Obviously, there was a lot of hesitancy on the COVID front from many players. He basically wanted to see what the first practice was going to be like. And after the first practice, Jeff Landesman kind of handed him a contract and said, "Are you in?" And he thought about it for a couple of days and then sent the contract back and said, "I'm in." And he's not the type of guy to go halfway in. He's all in, and he's loved the energy that the young players on this team have brought in. Also, Sam Fontaine has been a breath of fresh air for this LA team. But, I mean, look at the energy for the Aviators right now as they get set for the opening pull. And it's funny because this is not a game where they would be considered favorites generally. But when they have twice as many players available, you're allowed to have 20. They have all 20. Dallas at the moment has just 10. That is a unique proposition for any ultimate team. And I mean, we're chatting with Jeff Landesman about his player distribution. He hasn't typically gone that deep. He's usually played most of the top 14 on his roster, but at least he has 2 full lines of 7 apiece.
Sure. I was actually really impressed with Coach Landesman's caution approaching this game, knowing what we know about the Roughnecks, that there are only 10 players here. I thought that showed some sage wisdom from him, just that it is very easy to come out a little too relaxed if you think, wow, there are 20 of us, there are 10 of them. But the point is, there are 7 players stepping out on the line for both teams, and they are both fresh. And Dallas could really do some damage here early to either give themselves a small margin of a lead or stay close enough that as soon as they get reinforcements, you know that they're going to strike. Because everyone getting off the plane is going to be incredibly eager to step on the field and make an enormous impact.
Well, Dallas is going to begin the game on offense. This may not be the traditional Roughnecks O-line, but Chris Mazer was going to play offense today. He'll be out there on O. Roughnecks actually do have 11 players now. Jay Frood has arrived, so that is good news. And Jay is out there on the line with Kyle Henke, Matt Jackson, Chase Cunningham, Chris Mazer, Kai Marshall, and Kaplan Maurer. And there's the D-line for L.A. with Garrett Santee, KJ Koo. Played offense last week in Texas, but they're excited to get him back on the D-line this week. Seamus Robinson had a block on an undercut, his first ever point in the AUDL. So keep an eye on the 20-year-old from nearby Menlo Park. And here we go, Megan. It's going to be interesting. The Aviators and the Roughnecks Free Friday Frisbee is underway from Los Angeles. It's a jarring sight looking at the Roughnecks sideline. They're not going to have a very loud sideline tonight, but they have incredibly talented players between the lines, and that is usually more important. Kai Marshall gets a touch at midfield. Hits Matt Jackson underneath. Chase Cunningham, former member of the Austin Soul, dishes short to Jackson. Aviators defense tightening up in the red zone, but here's Maurer on the doorstep. And there was contact, which will enable him to center the disc. Andrew Padula called for the foul. Maurer takes the reset for Jackson. Opening point of the first quarter. The Dallas Roughnecks score, and Chris Mazer. I beg your pardon, that's... Hang on.
That is Mazer.
Yeah, that is Chris Mazer.
So Mazer's jersey, like the rest of the Roughnecks player, are currently on a plane.
Not ideal by any stretch. But Mazer has this old number 6, but wore Ben Lewis's number 7 for that point, and Mazer scores the goal. I'm guessing we're not going to have a ton of Roughneck stats in the first couple quarters here, but that's a minor detail.
It is what it is. I do have to say this has been an absolutely exhilarating season of Frisbee so far in the AUDL. And maybe it's just because there's been such a dearth for a very long time, but it feels like we have seen some absolutely incredible things, and it's just week 4.
Yes, we have. Well said. So here's the Los Angeles offense. Calvin Brown was unavailable last week, but he'll be the guy that the Aviators want to center it to most of their possessions. Brown, just 20 years old. Student at Cal Poly, slow, but really talented, skilled distributor. Colin Gall to Sam Fontaine. Fontaine, the former Growler, moving up the West Coast a couple hours this year to play for LA. Double team on Brown, downfield. Landesman had it and lost it. And not sure if there was a call, but it appears there's an integrity rule there, And Hunter Taylor acknowledges he committed the foul. Up the line. Fontaine back to Brown. Here's Landisman. Using the width of the field is going to be key, Megan. And Sean McDougal realized that, camped out in the empty space, and scored the first goal of the day for LA.
No one can sense the open space better than Sean McDougal. And watching that offensive point by the Aviators, you could tell very quickly the difference that Landisman and Brown made in the offensive flow for the Aviators. Last week in Dallas, Fontaine shouldered a very heavy responsibility trying to keep the offense moving, and now he has Brown and Landisman back, and you just notice he has so many easier resets available to him, and they march that one down the field against the Dallas Roughnecks loose zone.
16 completions, what it took Jeff Landisman's team to march down the field. He says he's been coaching this team since 2015, but for the first 5 years he did it from the stands. As a fan, as a father, now he's all those things, but he's also got all the responsibility on his shoulders. It's really a fascinating story. Turnover-free offensive holds for both teams to start the game. Again, it's Mazur. Here's Kaplan-Mauer. Short underneath to Gabe Hernandez. Mazur takes the first deep shot of the game. Hernandez is open, and Mazur put it on a platter in the back corner of the end zone. Certainly no rust for the once Aviator, once Roughneck. Now he's back with Dallas, and they're happy to have him.
You know, we were told beforehand by some players on the Aviators that this stadium is known for a little bit of swirly wind, but you know, no one can read it better than Chris Mazur. Look at that beautiful throw. And look at Gabe Hernandez. He does not even have to pick up speed. He knows that he and the disc are going to meet perfectly in the back corner of the end zone.
I remember chatting with new Roughnecks coach Jim Davis early in the preseason and asked him, who are the guys who have caught your eye so far? And really Gabe Hernandez was the first guy that he mentioned. His ability to use his athleticism and intelligence to contribute to the Roughnecks. You see the 4 guys on the sideline there, and the 7 on the field are going to try to trap on the sideline. Rolled it out near midfield. Calvin Brown facing the long-arm double team of Cunningham and Marshall. Now it's Fontaine. The super dump, Megan. First of the night. About a 25-yard reset right there. And a nice swing to the guy they call the Sultan, one of the other captains, along with Fontaine and McDougal, Michael Keoy. There's championship experience on both these teams, Megan. Keoy won the AUDL title back in 2014 with the Spiders. Obviously, several of these Roughnecks were champions back in 2016 in the franchise's first season. Kai Marshall called a foul on himself. So a spirited start for the Roughnecks, calling a couple fouls on themselves in the first 2 Aviators possessions, and up the line! Unable to haul it in, Keoy.
That was just out of the reach of the Sultan. And a quick update from Roughneck Griffin Miller. The rest of the team has landed, so it won't be too long now.
That's a great thought, but have you experienced LA traffic?
Okay.
We'll see. Roughnecks turn it over on their first break chance. McDougal. Backhand to the end zone and out of the reach of his bidding teammate, Sam Cook. Double team. Here's Marshall. And he'll launch long, looking for Frood. Beautiful throw from Marshall, and Frood runs it down. Now he needs help. The Roughnecks undermanned, but in position to get the opening break until it's dropped by Cunningham. A doinker to give it back to LA. That's a gift. That was a gorgeous throw by Kai Marshall.
So perfect, so perfect.
Sam Cook hit that half-field huck of a flick several times last week, holstered it there, and that deep shot is intercepted. Jake Reinhardt rips it down for Dallas.
You could see as soon as that frisbee went up that Reinhardt knew that disc was his. He attacked with purpose.
Dallas takes a timeout. They'll try to catch their breath. See what the Aviators do, whether the full D-line comes on the field. 5 turnovers now on this point after 3 straight points without a turn to begin the game.
So close.
Got a fingertip on it.
Yeah.
Just an inch or two away and a couple shots to the end zone, Megan.
And that was the doink from Frood to Cunningham. It's such a shame. It was such a nice put from Kai Marshall to Jay Frood. 3rd time's a charm. Oh no, not quite. Not if Jake Reinhardt has anything to say about it.
Well, the Roughnecks certainly look tired, but 3 of the 7 that were on the field have to stay. It is Taylor, Frood, Marshall, and Reinhardt who go to the bench, and there's the D-line for LA for Coach Jeff Landesman, who been playing Ultimate for about 42 years, grew up in New York, came out to the West Coast for college. He helped found the team at Pitzer, the Claremont Brain Eaters. And, I mean, he's been a top-level player, played in several semis and finals and the club national championships during his heyday. But, I mean, he's just described as the type of guy that lifts an entire Ultimate community with what he's done in LA throughout his time. Here's Kyle Henke. Lewis. Mazer launches. A couple targets going deep, and it's Lewis there for the score. Chris Mazer is dialed in. 3-1 Roughnecks.
I mean, you look at his puts, and his players don't even have to work that hard for them. They are just a foot or two in front. Keep running at the speed that you're supposed to be going at. Chris Mazer's got it all figured out. He'll get it right to you.
So what are the Aviators thinking on the sidelines now? They realize they got to turn on some sort of intensity and execution quick.
It'll come down to whether or not they can find an answer for Chris Mazer, who has 1 goal and 2 assists. He has been involved in all 3 of the Roughneck scores.
Roughneck short pull, they roll it out of bounds. It's a strategy we saw the Aviators employ a ton down in San Diego a couple years ago in the West Division Championship game. A battle they ultimately fell just short in against the Growlers, but that was not a good scuba. It hung up there forever. Hunter Taylor gets the easy deflection, and the Roughnecks with another opportunity to add a defensive score. I mean, I'm not sure this is sustainable for 4 quarters, Megan, but there's something fun about knowing you're going to play almost every point at the start of a game. You get into a rhythm maybe a little bit faster, but there's a throw a little too far ahead for Taylor. Think there's anything to that?
Well, you certainly have to think I'm going to move with purpose, and I'm going to put as sure of a put as I can, because I know that I'm not going to get much of a rest after this.
Here's Keoy for McDougal. Now Cook's going deep. Calvin Brown's put is perfect. And Jake Reinhardt kind of just let him go. So Brown to Cook as the Aviators strike with a deep shot to get back within one. Sam Cook has been a gigantic presence early in the season. Former Seattle Cascade, grew up in the Seattle youth scene, started playing in middle school, came down to Southern California for school, played at USC, and he has been a huge pickup for the LA offense early in the season.
Yeah, downfield, he's a great target for his teammate. He's also known for distributing goals. He's one of those midfield threats that you hate to guard because he's going to be a favorite target for people in the end zone. But just like Sean McDougal, if you try and limit his ability to go into the end zone, he knows what to do with the disc.
Now let's see if the Aviators can get a block. Pretty easy offense so far on the possession for Dallas. Cunningham tried to reset it to Jackson through his hands. And this is an opportunity for the LA D-line to make Dallas run, force these Roughnecks to work. They were on the field with an offensive mindset. Do they really want to run and play D right now? Ransom to the middle of the field for Santee, who was foot blocked by Lewis, but they call a foul. Santee says, "You got me on the arm." Hard to tell. Santee was pretty determined that he got hit. Robinson's reset kept alive by a bidding KJ Koo. Padula gets it to the middle of the field, and now one more. Aviators looking for the equalizer. Oh, maybe a little more difficult than it needed to be, Megan. But up the line will work. Garrett Santee has the goal, and we're tied at 3.
One thing that I was very curious about going into this game was how the Aviators were going to perform in the red zone. Last week when they met with the Roughnecks, their red zone conversion rate was 63%. They were making a lot of mistakes within 20 yards of their own end zone. Tonight you can definitely tell the difference having Brown and Landisman back. Looks like they're just a little more relaxed. They feel that they have a few more options available to them.
Mentioned Chris Mazur's time in the Connecticut Constitution. Santee was one of his Constitution teammates back in 2012. Santee from Middletown, Connecticut, played college at Central Connecticut State. He was just 20 years old, or just 19 years old on that 2012 team. Santee now 28 years old and launching the pull after scoring the equalizer. Under 2 minutes to go in the first. Again, if you joined us late, the Roughnecks beginning this game with 11 available bodies. And yet, so far, so good. They do look in a decent rhythm, although I think we're starting to notice some signs of fatigue as well.
Yeah, the first couple of offensive points, so smooth, mistake-free. Now we're starting to see a breakdown as the play goes down the field. Just players not exactly sure where they're supposed to cut, and that's where those mistakes are happening.
Hankey to Jackson to Cunningham. And here's Marshall. Final minute of the first. That disc, a little too tall for Hernandez, and cleaned up by Brandon Van Dusen. Aviators have scored 2 straight and have a chance to keep it rolling, and Jeff Landesman will take the timeout. Less than 40 seconds remaining in the quarter. And this does feel like a very important point here for the Aviators, as they'll get the O-line on the field. Aviators have had a strong history too. I mean, we think of the Roughnecks as a perennial juggernaut. Dallas has been to championship weekend every year of its existence. In that time, the Aviators have been to the postseason each and every season too since 2016. They missed the playoffs in their inaugural 2015 season. LA joined the league 1 year before Dallas. But they've been in the playoffs 4 consecutive seasons, went to the Final Four behind guys like Sean McDougal and Chris Mazur and Tom Doy and Eli Friedman and others in 2018. Here's the Dallas miscue. Throw just floating a little bit on Marshall, and I mean, Hernandez would have had that on the second effort if Van Dusen didn't go sky him. Big play for Van Dusen. Playing in his second game of the season for LA. Another youngster, just 21, out of Cal State Long Beach. And that's not what Jeff Landesman was looking to dial up after the turn and the timeout. Here come the Roughnecks, folks. Dallas players jogging toward the bench. Wonder if they got their cleats on yet. I imagine they do. You see the bench getting a little more crowded as the deep shot goes up. Mazur versus Keoy. And that disc is ripped down. It wasn't Mazur. It was Jake Reinhardt, the other number 6. Second big play of the period for Reinhardt. And it's Dallas that's back in front 4-3.
How many defenders does it take to stop Reinhardt?
More than 3.
More than 3.
And now just 7.5 seconds remaining on the clock. Reinhardt has been described as a top-end athlete, and he'll showcase that right now. Former U20 Team USA gold medalist. Played collegiately at Texas State. Just 24 years old. All right, see if the Aviators can do something here in these last 7 seconds. Calvin Brown rips it toward midfield, but Ben Lewis is roaming, and he'll get the block, and that'll do it for the quarter. So the Roughnecks, playing 11 on 20, still prevail. 4-3 in the first. We'll see how the final 3 quarters unfold, but certainly a strong start for the Roughnecks who were here. 4-3 Dallas, thanks to Jake Reinhardt and Ben Lewis. Also Chris Mazur, who had 2 goals and an assist in the first for the Dallas Roughnecks on the road.
make every day feel like a win, but with DraftKings, every day is a win. Courtesy of DraftKings free-to-play pools playoff edition. Simply make your picks on the featured game of the day.
Answer questions like who will cover the spread, which team will score first, and which players will have the most points. If you get enough right, take home your share of $250,000. So download the DraftKings app now. Use promo code to play free for a share of $250,000 in prizes.
And make it rain.
Well, the Dallas contingent of the Dallas Roughnecks has arrived. There's Brandon Muffin Malachek, another guy who's been in this league since the AUDL was founded in 2012. One of the great handlers we've seen over the past decade. He is here along with the rest of Dallas-based Roughnecks who were delayed coming in. I wonder if things don't go well these first couple points of the second, or the 11 that were here just going to say, no, go back to the airport. We'll be fine without you.
That game plan has worked for them so far, so sure.
Reminder, folks, this is your last chance to get in on the DraftKings free-to-play pool. You can get in on the action by playing for free when you sign up with the promo code AUDL. Just download the DraftKings app and make your picks on the results of the second half for your shot at $1,000 in cash. So there's a couple competing ideologies so far, Megan. I mean, look, to play with 11 players may not be sustainable for a full game, but Dallas certainly looked sharp in that quarter. They looked focused. They looked loose. They looked in a rhythm, frankly, the kind of rhythm that you get in when you're playing every point. Now you have reinforcements, but they're not guys who are loose and ready to go. They're guys who are literally just got off a plane or a van or a car or whatever. So, I mean, there's another wrinkle for you to analyze there. What do you think?
Well, look out on the field. You see Kyle Henke, Hunter Taylor, who else did I say? Gabe Hernandez. So clearly they've said, hey, look, we're feeling fine. We're doing good. Make sure you feel great before you step onto the field. Like you said earlier, they definitely found a rhythm, and so I think they're letting players hop on as they're ready.
And LA turns it over. Wesley Miaz, the only new member of the Roughnecks who just arrived, who hasn't played yet, along with Matthew Armour, who's in the game now, along with 5 guys who have been around for the full first quarter. That disc through Hunter Taylor's hands. I mean, take away whatever we've seen from Dallas, the Aviators just have not been as sharp as they need to be.
Yeah, I've been kind of surprised by the number of lofty throws that I've seen from them that Dallas has been able to eat up. They lower their release point, put a little more spin on it. Their discs are going to find their targets.
And another red zone turnover for LA. Colin Gall threw it to the space, but no one was cutting there. Cunningham and Hernandez work it. Helped up by Henke. And here's Matt Armour, who is wide open deep early in the point, but came back underneath to get it. Armour's throw is high, and it's incomplete. Very close to Callahan country down there. It was Keoy, the defender, who helped to disrupt the timing on that pass. And there's Danny Landisman, but he lost it. And he did not maintain possession, and that is not a goal. The ground dislodging the disc. And the deep shot goes up. Floating deep, Taylor, McDougal. Taylor rips it down. Hunter Taylor hammers over the top to Matthew Armour. Goodness.
That shot from Gabe Hernandez looked risky. But you have to have a lot of trust in your receiver to throw it when your receiver is as covered as Hunter Taylor was. But Hunter Taylor, known for his attacking capabilities, jumped up, grabbed it, no problem. And how about Matt Armour running the length of the field down and back to be the player to receive that goal?
Well, it's good to be fresh and ready to go. It's also good to be 23 And, I mean, he has really made incredible progress since he joined the team in 2018. Jim Davis, the head coach of the Roughnecks, telling us all about how comfortable they are with Matt Armour being a handler. And big part of that is just the reps he got throughout his college career being so central to his college team's disc movement. KJ Koo, the super reset hammer. 5-3 Dallas early in the second. I mean, the issue right now is really the Aviators' offense. I mean, this is basically the D-line out there, but whoever's on the field, their offense just has not been that smooth. Actually, a mix of O and D-line guys out there for the Aviators right now. Landisman to Miller. Happy birthday, Matt Miller. Turns 22 today. Goodness, that was a tough contested grab. KJ Koo and the foul. And his around backhand sets up Keoy on the doorstep. And LA is back within one. Ransom from Keoy.
You mentioned the LA offense not looking that strong, but we do also have to give credit to the Dallas defense. Especially last week, they registered 16 blocks against the LA Aviators. I have to think that the Aviators are a little bit trepidatious coming out today, knowing what kind of risks and layouts the Dallas Roughnecks will take in order to try and get that disc. Certainly seems as though they're being just a little bit cautious, and that caution is causing their offense to slow down so much that the Dallas defense is really clamping on, taking away a lot of looks downfield.
Dallas back out there on offense. Connor Olson playing his first point of the season. Thomas Slack his first point of the day. Mazur's now in his new number 39 jersey. Maurer, Mazur, Jackson with Henke, Frood, Slack, and Olson. This is the 7 that the Roughnecks had planned on playing offense at the start of the game. I think Chris Mazur, Megan, was a little surprised when he learned that he would be playing O-line. But no Abe Coffin this week, no Dalton Smith either. Chris has been a guy who's been kind of a plug-and-play player throughout his career, capable of taking on any role. As Henke launches deep, will it float enough? No, it will not. Intended for Jackson. I beg your pardon, it was Maurer going deep. Aviators looking for the equalizer, and that is not going to work. Mitchell Steiner has it go right through his grasp, and then Matt Jackson gives it right back, trying to quickly reset for Mazur, who wasn't ready. Low throw dug out by Santi, guarded by his old Constitution teammate, and rifles a backhand deep, and Jay Frood shows the speed, almost precariously gave it back. It is a swirly wind down on the field, and yet I'm not sure these turnovers are a result of the wind as much as just a couple offenses not quite in sync.
Certainly not those short, straight through the hand drops.
Thomas Slack, a guy that hardly ever turns it over. A little casual on that lefty backhand, and Kaplan Maurer was not going the right direction. Acrobatic bid, but it's incomplete, and another chance for LA on a D-line point to tie the game at 5. Jeff Landisman was telling us earlier in the week the toughest part of being the new coach, one of the toughest parts, is knowing when to call timeout and when to let him play. Right now, the D-line's grooving, and they finally convert. Van Dusen to Santi. So that's 2 goals for Garrett Santee playing defense for LA, and we're tied at 5. And look, these are long points. The quarter's more than half over, Megan.
That put from Henke would have sailed past even the freshest legs. It was just a little too far. And then here, the series of just almost incomprehensible drops from very seasoned players.
That was technically a D by Frood.
That was a D by Frood.
But it looked like he dropped it too. Just over 5.5 remaining in this second quarter. Brandon Malachek on the field for the first time today. Here's Lewis. 20 yards from the goal line to Cunningham. And that sweet lefty backhand will get blocked. Nate Ransom got a piece of it. And Wes Mia nearly had a chance on the second effort, but comes up empty.
Chase needed to put that just a little bit closer to the sideline.
Aviators have never led yet tonight. They had a chance at 3-all, remember, with the offense on the field late in the first, but turned it over. And Jake Reinhardt's Sky gave Dallas a 4-3 lead to close the first. Here in the second, though, the Aviators with their best chance of the day. McDougal to the end zone, and that is a disaster. Not what you would expect from a veteran like Sean McDougal. Gabe Hernandez lets a rip. Intended for Lewis. Right in his breadbasket, but a little bit of warning track power there. And a 15-yard reset back to Kai Marshall. Mia. Marshall. And the Roughnecks punch back. Aviators on the doorstep of surging in front. And red zone turnovers for LA, Megan, have been the story of the half. Dallas capitalizing to go back up 1.
Yeah, so far this season, LA in the red zone has not been that great.
And just lost Mia there. It was wide open. Kai Marshall the assist. And the Roughnecks now with a fresh 7 to throw out on the field. Jake Reinhardt, a huge reason the Roughnecks finished that first quarter with a lead. Now, a real storyline for the whole season has been kind of the Roughnecks not being ready to go. I mean, they acknowledged that in their opener against Austin. The Soul were the team that was in better shape, more prepared mentally to play 4 full quarters, and Austin got the better of Dallas for just the second time ever. Dallas had been 15-1 all time against their little brothers from down the road in Austin. But Austin got that win. Roughnecks bounced back against this LA team last week. The Aviators were without their 2 of their top young talents, and Danny Landisman and Calvin Brown. There's Landisman through the contact, hanging on to make the tough catch.
Earlier, the ground stripped him of his score, and you saw he was not willing to let that one go.
Calvin Brown had it knocked away by the remarkable handler defense of Noah Chambers. That was a first-class play right there by Chambers to make the block and not foul Brown in the process. Timeout called from Jim Davis over on the Dallas sideline. Another guy who's, like Jeff Landesman, has been around the sport of Ultimate for a very long time. Jim Davis played at the very first college nationals for Stanford back in the mid-'80s. He said the finals was really windy, and they were playing at 21, and there was no cap, and that game took like 3 hours.
Oh, my gosh. My legs are tired just thinking about that.
Yeah, well, he's just got the clipboard now. Doesn't have to do too much running. He was an assistant under Wes Nemec in 2018 and 2019, kind of orchestrating the defense. And he still kind of prides himself on being a defensive coordinator of sorts. He'll certainly share thoughts about the offense, but in large part, it's Kaplan Maurer, Dalton Smith, and the other veterans of this O-line like Matt Jackson and Jay Frood and Thomas Slack that will orchestrate the strategy out there on the field. That's a pretty good 7 right there. I mean, sure, they're missing Kevin Richardson, they're missing Abe Coffin, they're missing Dalton Smith and others too, but Mazer, Jackson, Maurer in the backfield with Slack, Frood, Olsen, and Henke downfield, a pretty strong group.
I mean, that's the thing about the Roughnecks. They're such a deep team that when you have to start going down into, your second choice for your offensive line, you still have really incredible, remarkable players.
Just over 2 minutes to play in the quarter. Evan Lepler, Megan Tormey with you from Los Angeles, and that could not have been the play.
Certainly not.
Maybe it was hit Matt Jackson up the line, but the execution certainly left something to be desired. And now LA back on 0, not for long though.
Looked like Matt Jackson tipped that.
Careless Scuba one way or another. And Dallas, maybe they can run what they plan to run during the timeout. Olsen to the end zone for Henke. And the Roughnecks match their largest lead, up 7-5.
Well, that certainly looked like a bit of effortless offense from the Roughnecks.
You can sense the frustration building for the, and you can see it. I mean, the body language, the animation after plays don't go their way. And that's not an easy thing to overcome in the heated intensity of a game day.
That's an excellent point, Evan, especially when it seems like the issue that LA faces right now is that they need to run some set end zone plays. They need to have the confidence that when they get down, this is the system they run, this is the cuts that they're looking for. And it's really hard to make up for that practice and try and come up with something that you can work on the fly during a game.
Landis been wide open by 10 yards on the under. Marked by Mia. Middle of the field, it's Colin Gall. And to the end zone for McDougal. Aviators need more of that. Second score for McDougal with just over a minute remaining in the first half.
I've spent a lot of time watching old plays of Sean McDougal just to try and figure out exactly how he gets open so often. And part of the thing about him is he is just so fast, he can sprint cut to the end zone from a dead standstill. So oftentimes he gets open with the tiniest fake, or he just looks at his player in the face, his defender in the face, and just sprints to the end zone. He's that fast.
Would you say he's faster than he looks?
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
I mean, that's kind of how he's done his craft for a long time. Over 100 receiving yards so far. McDougal, back in 2018, was second in the entire league in goals for the full season. Only trailed Indianapolis's Rick Gross. That was, of course, the year the Aviators went to championship weekend. Double team on the sideline, cross field, hammer is going to get blocked. Steiner laying out for the D. Just a fraction of a second too long for that disc in the air. And the Aviators sideline trying to build off that block from Mitchell Steiner.
That's the kind of energizing play you need. And you saw Olsen realize just a split second too late that someone was coming for that disc. But Steiner was full speed ahead.
So you want to be an AUDL coach. Can you handle the stress? There's not as much stress as a coach from the stands. There are a lot of coaches with you in the stands.
I was just wondering the same thing, how Jeff compares this coaching experience to the years spent coaching in the stands. And here's that put. You see Olsen just waiting for it, realizing that Steiner is coming in hot. He attempts a jump, but it's too late.
First block of the year for Steiner. Had 10 blocks in 12 games 2 years ago. He's been basically a 1 block per game guy throughout his career, which also started in the first year of the AUDL. He was a member of the Buffalo Hunters in 2012. It's kind of like a throwback AUDL broadcast tonight.
That's just what I was thinking.
Also played
Blast
for
from the past.
Also played for the Brian Jones-led Rochester Dragons.
Wow.
Brian Jones, 2019 AUDL Coach of the Year with the New York Empire, was with me in the booth a couple weeks ago for the Atlanta-Boston game. Accomplished ultimate mind in many, many ways.
Yeah, it's a shame he's so good at coaching because I really love having him in the booth.
It was fun to be back with him. Hear from him again at some point later this year. Can the Aviators convert in the red zone? This time they can. Jamming it up the line. And it's Cook. 7-all late in the second quarter.
Not an inch to spare on that catch. You saw him start to stutter his step as he was approaching the sideline, kept his toe just inside the white line for that grab.
So a couple goals in the half for Cook. And you see the big man, Jake Bomber, going out on the field for this final deep point to play in the end zone with less than 20 seconds left. These end of quarter situations, Megan, are so important. Bomber, 6'7", was planning on being an assistant coach this year. Basically talked into becoming a roster player again by his teammates.
If I knew someone who was 6'7", I would also talk them into playing onto my team.
Bomber hanging out in the deep space, a really fine pull, and certainly some unnecessary contact there. Accidental collision. Padula and Mazer, former teammates from 2018. 16 seconds on the clock as we restart on the release of the throw. Down to 10 seconds now for Dallas. Tied 7-all with LA. Henke to Frood. Takes the reset. Jackson gets it off, but no one was cutting deep. And it will land incomplete. And we will go to halftime tied 7-up.
Jackson certainly had something in mind with that throw, but I'm not sure what it was. Olsen had a appeared to be cutting into the end zone space, but pulled back earlier, so I'm not sure which target he thought he had.
I mean, if there was a cutter, it was a nice throw.
Would have been perfect.
But, you know, it is certainly something that the Roughnecks will need to find some synchronicity on, because at the half today, they are a little shaky too. Look, I mean, the Aviators scored on 4 of their 14 possessions on 0 points in that first half, and they're not losing. 7-all at the half. The Roughnecks now at full strength. But the Aviators haven't played particularly well too, and this game means so much to them. 7-all, Dallas and LA, halftime in our free Friday Frisbee on DraftKings.
The playoffs make every day feel like a win, but with DraftKings, every day is a win. Courtesy of DraftKings Free-to-Play Pools Playoff Edition. Simply make your picks on the featured game of the day.
Answer questions like who will cover the spread, which team will score first, and which players will have the most points. If you get enough right, take home your share of $250,000. So download the DraftKings app now. Use the promo code to play free for a share of $250,000 in prizes.
And make it rain.
2 experienced ultimate minds, but first-time AUDL head coaches. On the opposite sidelines today, Jim Davis for Dallas, Jeff Landisman for Los Angeles. Their teams are deadlocked, 7-all, after one half of ultimate tonight in LA. Great to be on the West Coast for week 4 of the AUDL season. Yeah, the nerves are prevalent for everyone, Coach. Last week, not quite the chaos of week 2, but still plenty of excitement. Time to take a look at the top 10 plays from week 3 of the 2021 AUDL season. Here you go. Merriman rips another deep puck. Ben Green sprinting to the end zone in DC's night. Goodness gracious. What a dime from A.J. Merriman.
I mean, Daryl Stanley can't believe it. What are we seeing tonight?
Looks like Chartok putting this one in play, and he jacks it immediately. And Babbitt giving chase as his reprimand. Will reprimand have enough time? He will not. And Babbitt certainly had enough height.
It's LA 10 yards into their end zone. Looks like Fontaine again with the disc. And here's Bigfoot from LA.
That was a beautiful throw.
Absolute peach.
What was that?
There.
That had to be 78 yards in the air.
It absolutely was. That was phenomenal. John Cecil, who's
So
no
caught
slack in the backfield there.
26-yard line to the
amazing play there.
Double team on the disc from Raleigh. 6 seconds on the clock.
And he'll throw the scoober. McCann's wide open. And he'll scoober it back corner of the end zone. Goodness! That was absurd. Halkerd was open, and McCann put it in the breadbasket. Boston ties it up.
Well, I'm pretty sure they said in the huddle only Scoobers this point.
Right.
And they came out with 6 seconds on the clock, break the double team, and then send it into the end zone.
Jake Sames getting it back to Starkle there in the middle of the field. Starkle with a really nifty throw, almost a no-look. And
That was one of the best inside break backhands I've seen in years.
That one is not thrown. Instead, it goes to the almost always sure-handed Max Shepard, who's matched up against MKB. Lamar lets up a hammer. Tom Edmonds underneath it. 2 big jumpers for the Thunderbirds, and Brownlee goes right over them.
Immediately firing a hammer, but that's probably not going to make it. Oh my goodness. Are you kidding me? Wow. Rookie Jacob Wam, I believe it was, that caught the deflection there, and before he hit it to the ground, he midfield greatest it into the end zone for Chris Weiland to recover with the layout score.
Continuation on the throw. And he's
Deep
gonna,
shot for Joe.
It's going to be challenged, but can Joe pull it in? What a grab. Absolutely great catch.
What a catch by Joe Kubik. You'll see that on SportsCenter Goal, Detroit Mechanics.
Van Dusen has it now, throws it all the way across the field. He's got Graber. Graber's got company, and what a catch! And what a catch! Graber had company in the form of Olette.
Jay Fruit's been known to make a couple high-flying grabs in his day, but that catch by Chris Graber of the Pittsburgh Thunderbirds last week.
Ridiculous.
Still has Megan laughing.
That was ridiculous.
Dallas has the O-line on the line. We're tied 7-all as Los Angeles pulls. Megan, what are your thoughts heading into this third quarter and second half of a pretty important result for both teams hanging in the balance? In the balance for Dallas, they're trying to get their season on track, and for LA, look, they're 1-3. They feel they should be at least 2-2, maybe 3-1. If they drop to 1-4, things aren't looking that positive going forward.
Yeah, both teams have good reason to want to win this game. I think Dallas is going to have the excuse behind a loss if they don't manage to pull out a win tonight. LA is going to have a lot more soul searching to do if they're not able to win here tonight. We'll say at the tail end of the first half, I think LA was 2 for 2 red zone attempts, so they certainly have cleaned it up within the very tail end of the first half, but they've got to stay consistent if they want to win this game.
It's worth mentioning, Dallas won the first quarter 4-3 when they only had 11 guys, and they lost the second quarter 4-3 when they had everybody. But perhaps everybody was not loose and ready to go. Up the line, Frood Doesn't need to go high flying for that one. He'll just show off the acceleration and run it down. Dallas converts in just under 90 seconds to start the third.
I think they'll be happy for a few easy scores like that after the mistake-riddled second quarter that we saw from them. This is a little more regular Roughnecks speed.
And that's the thing about Jay Fruit. If he's even with his defender, he's open, right?
That's well said. Yeah, he has an incredibly wide receiving width because of his speed and his ability to just make absolutely incredible layout grabs.
I mean, ever since he made his AUDL debut with the Madison Radicals, they were just kind of jaws dropped at his raw athleticism, his unique playmaking ability. That throw is too low, incomplete. Cook landed on top of it, and Dallas has another chance to go back up by 2. Chase Cunningham, been kind of the quarterback of the D-line so far this season for the Roughnecks. It's interesting, Megan. Cunningham made his season debut in Austin, Westlake High School, which is actually where he went to high school. So he played at his old high school football field. Unfortunately, he lost the game, but remember, he hurt himself in 2019. So Cunningham really hadn't played since the opener in 2019, hadn't played a full season since 2018. It's been a long time for Chase. Tore his ACL in the opener that year. That's good red zone offense. Quick passes back and forth, and it ends up with Ben Lewis catching his second goal of the day for the Roughnecks, who lead 9-7.
Looks like a little bit of a cheeky throw from Armour, but Lewis was totally ready for it. I thought perhaps we were going to see another fumble.
Well, one of the interesting dynamics about tonight, you know, San Diego coach Kevin Stewart is out there watching with many of the Growlers as well, who are getting ready to face the Roughnecks tomorrow night down in San Diego. What, if anything, can you learn from this game? The way it started, the way it's now, it's kind of a game that's been off kilter since the start. And I mean, if the Roughnecks can steal a win here, it's huge. But I'm not sure the Growlers are going to learn a whole lot about Dallas's systems and everything heading into tomorrow.
No, honestly, if I'm Kevin Stewart, I hope that they kind of fall into a rhythm here in the second half so that I do have something to build strategy off of.
Landisman marked by Chambers. Here's Calvin Brown. Brown has been steadier tonight. He hasn't taken too many chances. Koo dangerously squeezing it through there, but it works. Keoy, in all that traffic, scores the goal for LA. Michael Keoy, band director at San Marcos High School in Santa Barbara. I learned something today that I wasn't sure I ever knew before. Megan, you played tuba?
I did.
Chris Mazer, former Aviator and Roughneck, also was a tuba major at the University of Miami.
Oh my gosh, we could do a tuba duet.
And maybe a trio if you got Keoy involved too.
Well, he can direct us.
That would be amazing. Maybe championship weekend.
It would be something.
We couldn't have a full marching band, but we got 3 tuba players. Do you still own a tuba?
No, I never owned a tuba. I actually play the flute. I just marched the tuba.
I have so many questions, but we really need to focus on the game. Although I think the viewers want to hear more about this.
Got to buy my book.
It'll be a bestseller for sure. Olsen, little high flick to Jackson. And Olsen's been banged up his first game of the field. Mazur directed him up the line. LA was ready for it defensively.
Whoa.
More contact there. Olsen plays on. Seamus Robinson trying to get in his grill to Jackson in the end zone.
Nice find from Olsen. The Aviator defense had been really clamping down. You saw how many of them were clustered in the front corner of the end zone. Olsen did a nice job looking beyond the frenzy to find Jackson.
I don't know about you. It feels like two different Roughnecks eras combining on that score. I mean, Connor Olsen is the future of this franchise. I mean, we've hyped his age ever since he was making plays as a 19-year-old at 2018 championship weekend. I mean, now he's the wise old man of 22. Not like Matty Jackson is old, but he was one of the cornerstones of the D-line to their 2016 championship, one of the role players that really made a name for himself alongside all those superstars, the high-priced talent that Roughnecks owner Jim Garanser brought in to make a splash. McDougal's going deep and the throw's going up. Will it float enough? McDougal on his horse, bids, he's got it!
Oh my goodness!
Sean McDougal for the Los Angeles Aviators, going all out. Maybe make some room for that in this week's AUDL Top 10.
He cannot get more incredible. Look at that.
And to maintain possession through the elbow, slamming onto the turf.
Absolutely. It was tough on his shoulder, too.
Sam Fontaine unleashing the flick. And it floated just long enough.
What a fantastic grab from Sean McDougal.
And just an example of why this sport is so great, right? I mean, that throw and that catch, there's more complexity to ultimate than that in different strategies and things that coaches do to try to destroy the beautiful game, but that's as good as it gets.
I mean, you can say that again. There is so much to love about this sport, but that is icing on the cake.
All right, Aviators hanging around here. It's funny, I mean, with the Roughnecks starting the game shorthanded, in many ways it felt like if they could keep it close and then prevail, they would be stealing the win. But right now, with how the Aviators have made so many red zone mistakes and the reputations of these Roughnecks, and the fact that LA has never led in the game and we're midway through the third quarter, like it feels all of a sudden maybe the Aviators could try and steal this thing. Certainly a lot of work to do. A lot of time remaining to do it. Hankey to Maurer. Olsen was open. And now Frood. Lefty flick, a laser beam to the end zone for Dallas. Mazur's having fun. And he does not look tired at all, does he?
No, I am honestly shocked. I thought the way he played that first quarter, that certainly we would see some of his effort flagged just a little bit here in the second half, but no, he is fired up.
He was excited to get back on the field. Has great relationship with many of these Aviators that he played with. And Mazur still lives in the LA area, but recruited back to Dallas. Jay Frood. Understand he just moved to the Denver area. After growing up in Missouri. Played his college ultimate at Mizzou. 11-9 Roughnecks. Just to mention it again, Megan, could it be a nicer night?
No. No, absolutely not.
It is picturesque, as it usually is in Los Angeles. Mazur was telling me how he lives in the valley as the shot goes up. Tight space, but McDougal hangs on through the contact for LA. Wow. Rogers, give him credit for not decking McDougal. That could have been a more vicious collision, but perhaps they called it out of bounds. The officials will confer. There is a force-out rule in the AUDL. If he would have come down inbounds, but the contact made him come down out of bounds, it would be a goal. While the officials have to just talk about it, we hopefully will get the benefit of a second look. It's an important play in the game. Landisman up the sideline. There's Rogers. Again, credit to him for not decking him. That looks like a goal to me.
Yeah.
They're going to call it Dallas disc. This is perhaps one of those disc don't lie situations if the Roughnecks turn it over quick, but so far the Roughnecks D-line looking pretty crisp with the disc. Malachek looking deep, and he's got a man. Jason Hustad shy of the goal line, but he's got it. He'll flip it to Chambers for the score, and that is a huge momentum swing. Roughnecks with their largest lead of the night. Moments after it looked like McDougal had gotten LA within one.
Now we've talked a lot about Chris Mazur's firepower. Now it's time to talk about Muffin, who is also known for putting some dimes up on the field.
Noah Chambers has played well. Remember, he had a fantastic debut for the Roughnecks. I believe it was in Raleigh back in 2018. Made a couple big defensive plays in that season opener just as a young rookie. Chambers 23 now, will be 24 next month. All right, LA really needs to dig in here. I mean, this is the stretch, the last 5 minutes of the third quarter where the Aviators could put themselves in position to be competitive in the fourth, or they could let the game get away from them, which is kind of what happened last week when these two teams met in Dallas. Here's Koo. Fontaine. Brown. Nice throw up the line, and that's good offense. One of the better O points we've seen from LA for the entire game. Keoy from Van Dusen.
Saw some nice switches from Dallas downfield, but it still felt as though Aviators had control of the pace of this point. That was a nice break throw from Brown to just set the Aviators right in front of their Dallas defenders, giving them that easy 1-2 throw to the end zone.
The Sultan with a little bow.
Wow, that was a great put from Brown.
I'm not sure we've talked enough about Calvin Brown tonight. I mean, he began his ultimate career virtually when he was a baby. His parents played the sport, so he was out on the sidelines ever since before he could walk, really. Enrolled at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, was Ulti-World College Rookie of the Year in 2019, playing O-line as a true freshman for a team that went all the way to the semifinals. That throw is low, but Connor Olson makes a tough shoestring catch. Frood thought about the deep shot for Henke. Instead, back to Maurer and Jackson. Frood to a wide open Mazur, unmarked. And that is too easy. Kaplan Maurer played a lot of D-line in his life, but shifting over to the offense, and frankly, I'm not surprised that he looks like a natural on that side of the disc too.
Well said. He's a versatile player, and I like here how he calls for the disc. That's all Mazur needs. Just one quick indication that that's his target.
These two names nearly an anagram of one another, the Mazur to Maurer connection. So close. 13-10, 3:46 remaining here in the third. The Roughnecks with a full sideline over there. Jim Davis orchestrating this team. Jim had a scary moment the night of the Roughnecks opener, the game that got halted after just 2 points by vicious thunderstorms in the Dallas area. He had a pain in his abdomen and wasn't sure what it was. Basically waited for a while and realized later in the night he had to drive himself to the hospital. He had appendicitis. Had an appendectomy. Missed the game in Austin because of it. He was still recovering from some complications, but told us a few days ago he's feeling good. And good to see him on the sidelines making the trip. LA offense in a groove. Danny Landesman. Even Ben Lewis appreciating his cut to get open. I mean, what can we say about this kid? 20 years old. He turned 18 when he was trying out for the Aviators back in 2019. Obviously was playing with his dad ever since he was a young kid. I remember doing an AUDL rewind, rewatching that classic Aviators Seoul Kyle Henke buzzer beater game from 2018. 2017 it was. And I asked Chris Mazur, who was on that broadcast, who Danny Landesman reminded him of. And Chris gave a fascinating answer. He mentioned Claire Desmond, who has been a superstar in women's ultimate, played for the USA World Games team. And I said to Chris, like, that's high praise. And he said, yeah, he could be that good. Claire's one of the best players in the sport. So, I mean, he's got a ways to go. He's just 20 years old, but it's an impressive comparison to shoot for.
That is, and one of the great things about Claire is that she's able to put the disc around any defender and then she'll immediately go. So she's one of those players that if you're not watching her, she's already down the field making the second play, making the third play.
Sounds like you may have experience and memory of getting burned by Desmond as Dallas goes right up the line. Kaplan Maurer again in the end zone for Dallas. Jackson to Maurer to reassert the 3-point lead with 2:27 remaining in the quarter. But I'd love to hear more about you getting burned by Claire Desmond in a past life.
That is also in my book. So find it at a bookstore near you.
Well, you can play for free for thousands in cash all season long with the DraftKings free-to-play pools. Just download the DraftKings app today and use the promo code AUDL when you sign up. As far as Lepler's locks go, we got some work to do. But there's a long time left, and Dallas has another chance for a break. Poor form from the Aviators offense gives the Roughnecks this opportunity, and Cunningham sees too much traffic on the near side, so he'll take the swing for Marshall. Kai Marshall, original Roughneck, connecting with Lewis. Dallas now up by 4 with under 2 minutes to play in the third.
Dallas certainly looks like they're settling in. They're doing a great job of moving the disc the width of the field. Finding players that are open and fairly wide open. They're not terribly contested puts that Dallas is finding.
And the Roughnecks have looked pretty good in this third quarter. Scored 8 goals in the third after scoring 7 the entire first half. 8-4 Roughnecks in this third quarter, still with just under 2 minutes to go. Calvin Brown to Colin Gall. Brown finds McDougal and crease through the double team. And Fontaine hits the open man, Gall. Hear the fire calls from Dallas as they match up man-to-man after the junky look through the first 45, 50 yards of the point. Coup to Landisman. Landisman needs a reset, gets one with Cook. McDougal. Final minute now in this third quarter. I'll tell you, the Roughnecks defense deserves credit too for LA's red zone struggles. Foul called there, stops the clock with 40 seconds remaining. And Cook, pretty good matchup with Taylor. Those are two big guys.
Yeah, I mean, Dallas isn't registering as many blocks as they did in their last meeting, but they are hampering the offensive flow of the Aviators.
It was a great job by Calvin Brown there, not waiting for the whistle to begin his cut. You know, in college ultimate, club ultimate, you got to stay still on a foul until play resumes. In the AUDL, you're free to move. And Calvin Brown takes advantage. Over 200 throwing yards tonight, scores his first goal and brings LA back within 3. Interesting quirk in the schedule, Megan. Los Angeles has a long break after this game. After today, they don't play again until July the 17th. And when they play on the 17th, they basically start 3 games in a week. They play the 17th, the 23rd, and the 24th. So they'll have an opportunity to practice. They're without Marcel Osborne tonight, who got hurt this past week in Austin. The controversial play with the sole late in that one. Got word Marcel's x-rays were negative, so they're hopeful to have him back when they return to the field on July 17th. And he's played pretty well so far this year for LA.
Yeah, I'm sure that's another person that they're sad they don't have tonight.
Final seconds of the third. Thomas Slack is too open. Scores with just under 4 seconds to play, 3.9 on the clock. And look, I know he's quick, but the defense left something to be desired there in the final seconds with Slack just finding a whole bunch of real estate all by himself.
Slack all alone, plus the crafty throws of Chris Mazer. Easy score for Dallas.
So we'll see if the LA Aviators have any last-second heroics here. Chris Mazer has been a very nice addition. The pull goes about 70 yards, and Calvin Brown rips it. This is going to get to the end zone here. Jake Bomber's got a chance for this one. He actually threw it too far.
Wow.
A look at the cannon for Calvin Brown. And I mean, you don't see that very often in an end of quarter situation. I mean, he was standing, on his own, the 20-yard line of the football field, and basically threw this over 90 yards going downwind.
I mean, of course, he's got to be disappointed that he didn't give his teammates a chance to make that play. But he also has to be a little bit proud of how far he threw that disc.
Not as proud as he would have been if McDougal had caught it inbounds or Bomber had skied the crowd. It's a 4-goal game as the Roughnecks scored 9 times in the third quarter. We go to the 4th in LA. It's a 4-goal game.
Playoffs make every day feel like a win, but with DraftKings, every day is a win. Courtesy of DraftKings Free-to-Play Pools Playoff Edition. Simply make your picks on the featured game of the day.
Answer questions like who will cover the spread, which team will score first, and which players will have the most points. If you get enough right, take home your share of $250,000. So download the DraftKings app now. Use the promo code to play free for a share of $250,000 in prizes.
And make it rain.
Nice crowd on hand here in Los Angeles on just a gorgeous night for Frisbee. Second home game of the year for the Aviators. They won't be back home, as we mentioned, until July 17th against the Austin Soul. Soul are in Seattle tonight. They're just underway. That game airing on AUDL.TV. Big slate of games tomorrow on AUDL.TV. If you don't have your subscription, it's $10 a month. Tons of great Frisbee from all around the league. Also on AUDL.TV tomorrow, these Dallas Roughnecks at the San Diego Growlers. That's our Fox Sports game of the week. And that game has plenty of storylines, Megan, with the Roughnecks and Growlers having only met once. That was back at championship weekend in the 2019 semifinals. They are now divisional rivals, which seems a little aggressive to say because they've never played as divisional opponents. They've only played once. Calvin Brown shooting it deep. Danny Landisman in a crowd elevated but could not hang on. Got a fingertip on the disc, but incomplete.
It was a great read over his defender.
This may have been deflected by McDougal, but Marshall hangs on. Downfield for Lewis. Here's Armour. Reinhardt. Alex Brower with his first touch of the disc of the night. Back to Cunningham. Dallas got to be content to 1, bleed clock, and 2, look to take a 5-goal lead, and that's a gorgeous toss from Jake Reinhardt, who might be the player of the game for the Roughnecks tonight. I mean, Chris Mazur's got a case too, but think about what Reinhardt did early in this game when they were shorthanded, gave them the lead with a sky in the final seconds of the first, and just dropped a dime cross field for the goal that gives Dallas a 5-goal lead for the first time.
I couldn't quite tell if Landesman had a hand on it, but look at that throw from Reinhardt. I mean, something else that LA did the last time these two teams met is they kept throwing the disc over all of the defenders. And here you see Reinhardt take a look down the field, and he curves it all the way around his fellow Roughneck players and their defenders. That was some great touch on that throw.
Two former members of the Austin Soul, Reinhardt and Brower, collaborating there for the break. And Dallas leads by 5. Outscored LA 10-5 since halftime. Clock ticking because the clock starts on the release of the pull. Sam Fontaine certainly didn't get it to the spot. And then a sense of urgency there. Let about 33 seconds tick off before initiating play. Well, we haven't loved what we've seen from the Dallas Roughnecks through their first, say, 2.5 games, but the second half tonight, they have looked pretty crisp.
Yeah, earlier when I was saying Kevin Stewart has to be hoping they fall into a rhythm so he can learn something, I really think there's something to glean from their play in the second half of this game.
I think he might be thinking, no, Megan, we don't want them in any sort of rhythm at all coming into our game with confidence.
That's a fair point.
The shot for Cook is there. Another nice throw from Matt Miller, celebrating his 22nd birthday today. I mean, that's the thing about LA. They got an incredible amount of tantalizing young talent, but the problem is everyone else in the league, for the most part, does too. I mean, we could do a couple hours on all of Dallas's great players under the age of 24. And I think that we're seeing this infusion of talent everywhere in the league, really.
No, that's a really great point. The future is definitely here in this sport. Young players are stepping up on this stage, and they are already prepared. We're not watching them learn. We're watching them just start very illustrious careers.
And one of the top under 20 guys in the league right now for the Minnesota Wind Chill, Will Brandt, 19-year-old handler out of Edina High School. He has been remarkably smooth with the disc for the Wind Chill through their first 3 games, including 2 wins over a Madison defense that really forces you to work. And you think, oh, a young handler, they'll get in his head. No, he has been pristine along with Tony Poletto and Andrew Roy from Minnesota. Henke to Slack. Dallas by 4. Closing in on 8 minutes to play. Olsen and Frood play catch. Now Slack joins the party. Tight space there, but Maurer able to hang on. Patton and Matt Jackson throw and go right there, but it's Frood going to the end zone, and Maurer puts it to space.
Dallas, these last few points have looked, dare I say, slightly casual.
In a good way.
Oh, yeah. But it seems the pressure is off. Contrast to the first quarter of this game where they had only 11 players and it was vital that they keep things close, to now everyone clearly is feeling good, is rested enough. They are hitting their marks with ease.
Good look at the Dallas sideline. And look, they're missing plenty of key players. Henry Ferruda got hurt in the first game of the year against Austin. Zach Marbach also believe battling a tweaked hamstring. Both Larberg brothers unavailable this weekend, but talented players. And then Abe Coffin, Dalton Smith, Kevin Richardson. When the guys show up, Dallas is deep. Calvin Brown has his second goal, hauling a net flick from Sam Fontaine. And if the Aviators have one last little push in them, it has to start defensively, probably right about now.
Yeah, this quarter they have not looked like they've been challenging Dallas's offensive flow very much. Jeff Landisman talked about mixing things up a little bit defensively. I'm curious to see if he has any other looks to show right now. Try and make things a little more difficult for Dallas.
That would be a good time for a curveball. But that's the thing about the Roughnecks. They've kind of changed their offensive style. You talked about it earlier. Dalton Smith, who's not here tonight, but his fingerprint's still all over what the Roughnecks have done offensively. Which isn't to say they don't play big ultimate, because they're capable of that, but they're pretty conservative. They put their athletes in a position to make plays, and they're pretty sure-handed. And right as we say that, they turn it over on the goal line, and the Aviators have a chance to get back within 3. Incredible job transitioning a defense here by the Roughnecks. And the Aviators turn it over on the goal line again. And if it sounds like there's pain in my voice, it's because that's a hard thing to watch.
That is, like you said, Dallas did a great job transitioning to D. But that was an unforced error on that throw to Santi.
Callahan chance here. Oh! The bid from Steiner, inches away. Frood hangs on in the end zone. Haven't been that many Callahans through the first 3 weeks of the season. I know San Diego's Lior Gaval got one. Still waiting for our first in a free Friday Frisbee spectacular. Jay Frood ripping long. Slack was wide open. KJ Koo playing catch up, but Slack rises up just in time and then floats it to Henke, who's got it!
Oh my gosh!
Kyle Henke, like he's diving into a swimming pool.
Well, Slack owes him one for that.
He's always been a big play guy. From his days at Texas Tech to obviously his remarkable buzzer beaters and greatest playing for the Austin Soul. And that big play ability is now enjoyed by the Roughnecks. Still shaken up a little bit by that landing, Megan.
Wow.
I hope this is the look right here. Henke on the left side of your screen into your living room. You can see how he's a little winded, huh?
That hurts.
I'm sure Thomas is just going to be like, look, I wanted to give you a chance to make a play. I could have put it to you flat, but
yeah.
I
also know you like the layouts.
Foul called on the Roughnecks there. Cunningham doesn't look like he agrees. Double team, really frustrating several Aviators here in the second half.
Yeah, Chambers and Cunningham are determined to get that D stat back.
Sam Cook squeezes it up the line. Brown, little cheeky throw for Landisman. And now Fontaine. McDougal. To Brown. A lot of space on that far side of the field, Megan, but instead they go to the near side corner and it works. Nice finesse on that throw from Calvin Brown to Sam Fontaine. Calvin Brown's a fascinating player right now because if you just put together his highlights, it's like this guy's unbelievable. But he still has to learn how to harness the mistakes to become as well-rounded of a player as I think everybody around the league knows he could be. He has a real chance to be one of the top players in the sport.
No, that's a really good point. When he's on, it's perfect. But for him to be able to execute consistently is where his next step of improvement is.
And frankly, like the guy we're just talking about for Dallas, Kyle Henke, is a little bit of a similar story. I mean, Henke was known as a big play, highlight reel machine, but the completion percentage always was a little lower than you would have liked. The decision making in certain situations through his time in Austin and maybe one or two instances tonight. But those are, I mean, two raw talents. Olsen's another. Downfield for Jackson. Chatted with Matt Jackson before the game. He works in a biology lab, and his lab was really involved in processing thousands of COVID tests a day over the course of the last year plus. Deep shot denied by Seamus Robinson. So, I mean, Matt Jackson's like, I'm doing good, but I'm tired. It's been a long year. He's worked long hours, and I thought it was cool, Megan, when you thanked him for his service in a way.
Man, the number of people who had to just pivot what they do career-wise or endure just absolutely grueling conditions to help get us through this pandemic. It's really been incredible, and a lot of people won't get the thanks that they deserve.
Yeah. It's a nice leaping grab there. Steiner to the end zone for Koo. Well, maybe the Aviators do have one little push in them. That's a break with 3 minutes to go to get back within 3.
Great grab from Steiner.
And he's giving the Aviators some good energy tonight.
Yeah, really, it was his big block earlier in this game that seemed to energize the Aviators in a way I hadn't seen yet this game.
Interesting line here for Dallas. Kind of a conglomeration of O&D guys as we've come to expect them so far this season, but that's ultimate for you. Armour, Mia, Cunningham, Hernandez, Lewis, Malachek, and Frood. It is cool to see Brandon Malachek still going strong. He'll be 37 in September. One of the great throwers in the history of the league. And it was an interesting situation for him to be in coming into this season, Megan. You know, he played most of the 2019 season, but kind of got taken out of the lineup for a different style. They went a little bit younger in the playoffs. Malachek, to his credit, was an unbelievable teammate, going nuts on the sideline, helping the young guys. He's a great depth piece to have as a guy with experience, incredible accomplishment, and obviously he can still sling it.
Yeah, Malachek, to his credit.
Right on cue, Malachek puts it right to Cunningham, who endures the bump from Robinson, and then the whistle comes late.
Malachek is a huge support to his team, whether on the field or off. So it's no surprise to me that character-wise, he stayed in it for his teammates even when he wasn't getting playing time. Wow.
Like Robinson tried to take a charge, and they're going to call it. Offensive foul. Clock continues to tick, though. Cunningham tried to step through the double team, floats it around the corner. And Dallas goes back up by 4 with officially 1:47 remaining. By the way, that's one Lepler's lock in the book. Never a doubt that the Roughnecks would get to 20.
Well, thank goodness there's no recording of you saying anything to the contrary.
Never a doubt.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. You can always trust a Lepler lock.
Well, unfortunately, the other two aren't looking great.
Shh, shh, shh. We need not mention that here.
Appreciate it.
No problem.
Malachek only missed 4 games in his first 4 seasons with the Roughnecks, not including the playoffs in 2019. He had 47 assists in the 2018 season. That matched the Dallas single-season record, which was set back in 2016 by Jimmy Mickle. Certainly looks like the Aviators are going to fall short here tonight, Megan. It's a missed opportunity and a learning moment for this young team. They just didn't come out with the execution they needed early on. I mean, the intensity may have been there, but the execution was not. And they will learn and grow from this. They have certainly plenty of time to practice before their next game in mid-July. That's a dangerous throw and would have required a heroic catch and off Brown's fingertips in the end zone.
Certainly it's good that they have this long break because it does feel as though the issues that are plaguing the Aviators currently are things that can be dealt with extra reps.
Hunter Taylor, he's been a nice pickup for Dallas, don't you think?
He'd be a nice pickup for any team.
Great job by Ben Rogers there reading it. And how about a third straight hammer for the score? Hammer point. Final minute, Roughnecks by 5 as they're going to improve to 2-1 in advance of the big showdown with San Diego coming up tomorrow. I think Dallas leadership is breathing a sigh of relief right now.
You know, part of me feels like the Dallas leadership never doubted the outcome of this game. And I do have to say, one thing that I was concerned about was just about how Dallas would have to play to stay in this game. I was afraid it would be fairly exhausting. And especially in the second half, they look like they've been conserving energy well to the point where I don't know that they will be at an extreme deficit when they face San Diego tomorrow because of the effort today.
Good shot of Big Jim on the sideline, owner of the Roughnecks. Landisman unable to come up with that one. And the clock continues to tick. That should just about do it. Free Friday Frisbee next week, Megan. Your old hometown of Chicago. Radicals in the Union meeting for the first time. One more turnover. Keough gets the block, but the Roughnecks get the win. A crazy night in LA. Dallas began shorthanded, but in the end showed off their depth and their incredible all-around skill. Tied 7-all at the half. A 9-5 third quarter broke it open. And the Roughnecks win the fourth too to prevail 21-16 here in LA. Jim Davis. Look, the Roughnecks are 2-0 and he's on the sidelines. Not that anyone in Dallas will make excuses as to that's why they lost the opener. But the Roughnecks certainly not quite looking like the championship contender in terms of their form, but they're getting closer to that form.
They certainly are. They look like they have started to slot pieces into appropriate places and are feeling a little bit comfortable working together, facing different defenses, and working through any issues for a positive result at the end of the game.
Chris Mazer shaking hands with so many of his old teammates. He still lives in the LA area, and look, those guys are really close. That's cool. A lot of smiles all around. A lot of good guys on both these teams, Megan. Really fun teams to be around, fun teams to watch. We'll follow Dallas to San Diego tomorrow. Jeff Landesman will continue to work and build this young Aviators team that made some plays tonight, but just not enough against a team that has never failed to make the Final Four in its first 4 years in the league. They got Mazer back in the fold. They got so many young players around him doing work. 21-16 tonight. Dallas over Los Angeles. Hope you'll join us tomorrow on AUDL.tv for the Roughnecks and the Growlers. For Megan Tormey, this is Evan Lepler saying good night from LA. Dallas 2-1, heading to San Diego tomorrow night.